Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli, that's Bud Elliott, that's Danny Kanell. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live on CBS Sports Network. Fired up to get you set for a big week ahead in the Big Ten, where we are going to do a little bit of a reset, particularly with a focus at the teams at the top of the conference, because we have found ourselves in a very interesting situation, because last season we saw Oregon join the Big Ten, go undefeated in conference play, finish as the Big Ten champions 13-0. We saw the Ohio State Buckeyes roll with that talented roster to the college football playoff national championship. Then you'd think there'd be a little bit of a step back, right? I mean, after all, Ohio State tied its school record with 14 NFL draft picks. Oregon set a new school record with 10 NFL draft picks. And yet, gentlemen, we look up at the rankings here as we prepare to enter October, and who's that? Oh gosh, these are the top two teams in the whole daggum country. Now that does not happen if you are not prepared to be able to reload and reset. And so we want to spend these first couple minutes really highlighting what we have seen from Ohio State and Oregon that has allowed them to get to this point where even after everything that they accomplished and everything they lost, we are looking at them as some of the best in the country. So let's start with the Buckeyes. And we have all submitted a couple players that we want to highlight. But before we get to the players, very quickly, Tom, first word to you, that from a storyline, big picture perspective, what's really stood out about what Ohio State has shown you through the first month of the season?
Just how, as we're going to talk about, the ability to reload. It's something that in previous years of college football was not, or it was pretty much the norm. You saw a lot of the best teams lose guys and reload because they had just recruited so well compared to everybody else. But now in the transfer portal era with, the COVID year of recent seasons and all that stuff, we didn't really have to see many teams reload that way because they were always able to go get veteran experience in the portal. So it was kind of a test case of, well, can you still do it that way? And I think to start the year, yeah, I think Ohio State's proving that you can, because it is a lot of new faces and they are still playing at an incredible level to where they still look like the best team in the country. And they've played two of the tougher opponents that most of the teams that you look at the top of the polls. You can argue Texas and a road trip to Washington are tougher games than anybody else has played so far.
I'll go look at an angle because I know we're going to dive into some of these players. What about the staff? The question marks that were around this coaching staff was been huge, and they lose Jim Knowles to Penn State was one of the bigger stories at the end of last season. What do? You go get Matt Patricia, who you could argue has been much different, but equally or more impressive as what you saw from last year with some of the more exotic coverages that he's running on the back end. And then when you lose Chip Kelly back to the NFL, you're able to elevate from within and go with Brian Hartline, who you really haven't seen much drop off. Now, yeah, I think Ryan Day has taken over a lot more of the play calling. It's more collaborative, but I thought the staff, the changes they made on the coaching staff have been some early that you've seen significant, where you have not seen that drop off at all on either side of the ball. So I think the coaching continuity and changes that you did make, I think those have been vital to Ohio State potentially running it back. Uh-oh.
Oh, we got him. We got him.
Got him.
Oh, no. I think it's just how ready you are on the defensive side of the football this early in the season with all the new pieces that you have, like the variety of coverages Ohio State can play, the ability to play man, to play match in the back end. They do a lot of sim pressures. They do so much different stuff. It's like, how in the world can a college team run this much defensive scheme with that many new pieces in the back end? It's really phenomenal.
All right, Bud, first word to you. Now we got to get to some players that we wanted to highlight, because if you're going to lose for Ohio State, 14 NFL draft picks, that means that you've got some players who've been able to step up and make a big impact early. So who are some of those new names that have really stood out to you, Bud?
All right, so I would look here at Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese might be the best linebacker in the country, guys. Like if you think about it, Ohio State has faced two really talented young quarterbacks so far in Arch Manning and Damon Williams, and they have absolutely dominated both these guys. Both these guys are dudes who can hurt you with their legs, and really, Arvell Reese just absolutely eliminated them. Like his ability to close space, to be in passing lanes with his length and his speed, I don't really think there's another backer in college football right now who's playing quite as good as Arvell Reese, so I would certainly take a look at him. We knew Ohio State lost so many of those impact pass rushers off last year's team. Caden Curry, guy's been in the program now for 3 years. He's finally stepping up. It's quite a nod to Ohio State's player development staff. And then on the offensive side, they lost Josh to the Kansas City Chiefs, a really good player off last year's offensive line. They lost Donovan Jackson. Austin Severeld has played extremely well for these guys. In the playoffs, they're going to face some really, really awesome pass rushers. They already did against Texas, and I thought he held his own in that game. It kind of gives me confidence that Ohio State can run this thing back and repeat as national champions.
Tom, who are you looking at?
I don't know if you guys have heard, but the NCAA has taken so many losses in court when it comes to eligibility in recent years that Bo Jackson's back. He found more eligibility, and he's currently playing running back for Ohio State. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Ohio State, Bo Jackson is playing running back. Okay, so it's a different Bo Jackson, but it's the same position, and so far kind of looks like the original Bo Jackson back from Auburn way back in the day. This is a guy who wasn't really coming into the season to be the starter. They brought in C.J. Donaldson from West Virginia, is supposed to be the bell cow, but he's not really the most explosive back you're going to see. He's more of the get 3-4 yards and keep the chains moving guy. Jackson has been an explosive force for them in the run game. We saw him really go off against Grambling in Ohio, and he also played very well on the road against Washington, rushing for 80 yards. He looks like somebody who could be a future star, the next great Ohio State running back. So that's somebody that we definitely need to keep an eye on. And on the defensive side of the ball, Caleb Downs gets a lot of attention, and deservedly so, because he's one of the best players in the country. But there's another safety in that Ohio State defense, a young kid. He's a sophomore, Jalen McClain, who I have been very impressed with to start the year. He has looked very good. He's got 19 tackles. He's broken up a pass. And I thought that in coverage, he has not been a liability at all. And we saw last week against Washington, he struggled a little bit in the run game, but I thought that he counted himself very well holding up against receivers in coverage. And I think having those two guys at the back, but as you were kind of mentioning with what Ohio State's been able to do defensively, I think those two are a big reason why, because they give you versatility that most teams just do not have.
So I think the most important position in the game is quarterback, and that has been the most important find for them, has been not only Julian Sain, the way he's been playing, but hitting on Julian Sain. How many schools did we look at this year, including the school they faced in their first game of the season, had massive expectations because they had 5 stars in front of their name and they were supposed to take that next step forward, and those teams are struggling. Well, guess what Julian Sain is doing? He's doing exactly what they need him to do. And I think it's setting up perfectly for them because he didn't have any playing experience. He steps into a lineup, wins the starting job. He's got great talent around him, and they're kind of taking baby steps forward with him. He's crushing it, making great decisions with the football. He's incredibly accurate. They're putting him in positions to succeed, where I think at the end of the year, you might see somebody who's not just a game manager, but somebody who actually a difference maker at the end of the season. So clearly in any reload, you have to hit on the quarterback position. And early after the first month of the season, it looks like the Buckeyes hit with Julian Sain.
Danny, quick follow-up just for you. One of our storylines going into the game against Washington was about whether, he would be allowed to get out there and let it rip, whether he had been protected a little bit. The game itself was a little bit difficult because the defense was so dominant, I will admit, but did you see anything from Sain against Washington that lets you feel like you're starting to see some progression in terms of how much he's allowed to get out there and maybe play outside of the limitations of the system?
No, there were a couple opportunities before half, too, where they could have been a little bit more aggressive in the 2-minute drill, and they decided, take a knee, go to halftime, which I think is totally normal. It's expected, the way your defense was playing. There weren't a lot of throws down the field, and we talked this about the cover 3 yesterday, and Tom was saying, well, there weren't many opportunities to do that, and that might have been the case, which is then a good thing if you see Julian Sain not trying to force the ball down the field to a Jeremiah Smith. So I think it's probably a combination of both. And, the couple situations, Jeremiah Smith touchdown pass, Washington brings pressure. They have lined up on the line of scrimmage. It was a great play call. He knew exactly where to throw it. It was a pretty easy throw, gets the touchdown pass. So he's operating and doing exactly what they're asking of him, but I don't think they've sort of just let it go and said, all right, we're just going to trust him with the full scope of the offense and be as aggressive as they want to, but it really doesn't matter now. It matters just like the load management last year. I think they're kind of picking their spots to let Julian Sain kind of open up this offense.
Yeah, I like that. When we discussed this topic yesterday in terms of, ways we'd be able to look at Ohio State and from a different angle, look at the reload, the number one name is one that's actually already been said here, but it was defensive end Caden Curry, because that is teams that are able to reload, the national championship contenders that don't peak. They are just every single year showing up with a team that's ready to go, because with 5 sacks so far through the first month of the season, he has already doubled his output from last year. Curry currently tied for the lead in the Big Ten of all Big Ten defenders with 5 sacks on the season. And as Bud mentioned, what an incredible nod to the program development, because you've got changeover on the defensive staff, and yet you still have somebody ready to be the next man up. He clearly learned something playing behind the likes of Big Bear Jack Sawyer out of JTT, and now he is ready to have his number called. This is not an Ohio State team that just brings in players that are going to be one and done. This is not a team full of mercenaries. This is an Ohio State team that competes for national championships. I mean, they spend money too, sure, but they also make sure that you are developing and that you are going to be ready by the time you are an upperclassman. So I think that he exemplifies one of the reasons why Ryan Day's program is one of the most healthy in the entire country, and definitely why you don't have to rebuild when you're Ohio State. You reload, and Caden Curry is a great example